So if you want to acquire a vast, world-altering fortune, the kind of money that makes you a literal billionaire,
Right.
whatever you do, do not become an investment banker,
Yeah. Seriously.
which is wild, right?
Right.
But going to Wall Street is, statistically speaking, one of the worst pieces of wealth-building advice you can actually get.
It sounds completely counterintuitive because it basically violates everything we think we know about the American dream or just how finance works. But the data is undeniable. Welcome to another deep dive, everyone. I'm excited for this one.
Me too. We are diving into some highly provocative excerpts today from Sam Wilkin's book, Wealth Secrets of the 1%. And, our mission today for all you curious learners out there is to figure out how people actually acquire billion-dollar fortunes. Not millions, but billions.
The kind of wealth that equals the economic output of a small country.
Exactly. And Wilkin immediately throws cold water on the conventional wisdom. Out of the more than 1,600 billionaires in the world today, fewer than 5% are bankers.
5%.
Yeah, and if you zoom in on global financial hubs, places like Wall Street or London, less than 1% of the world's billionaires actually built their fortunes there.
Which is staggering.
So the people in the custom suits ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange, they aren't the ones hoarding the billions, which naturally makes me wonder, well, who actually is?
Right.
And looking through these sources, the answer is incredibly surprising.
It is. The majority of extremely wealthy banking fortunes actually emerge from the developing world, not the established hubs.
Okay.
Take Roberto Gonzalez Barrera. He's a Mexican billionaire who built a net worth of around $1.9 billion. If you look at Forbes, the source of his massive fortune is listed as banking tortillas.
I love that. Tortillas. Just banking and tortillas.
Right.
But this raises a massive red flag in my head. If career choice or having an Ivy League degree or just being really, really good at basic business isn't the golden ticket, then what is? Because if you look at basic economic theory, being a billionaire shouldn't even be mathematically possible in a true capitalist society.
And you've just hit on the core insight of this entire deep dive.
Oh, sweet.
Because in economic theory, a perfectly competitive free market is basically a machine designed to drive profits down to zero.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
If I start selling a revolutionary new phone, right, and I'm making a 50% profit margin, someone else is going to see that giant pile of cash.
Obviously.
They'll enter the market, they'll reverse engineer my phone, and then sell it for slightly less to steal my customers.
Exactly.
Then I have to lower my price.
Right.
And they lower theirs.
Yeah.
Until eventually we've undercut each other so much that the price drops to exactly what it costs to manufacture the phone.
Yes.
So the profit margin completely vanishes.
Right. So if perfect competition eliminates profit, then the sheer existence of stupendous billion-dollar fortunes proves that these individuals are absolutely not operating in a perfect market.
Wow.
Their wealth implies the existence of what Wilkin calls giant gaping holes in economic reality.
Giant gaping hole.
Yeah, so to get obscenely rich, you don't just need a better product, you need a wealth secret.
A wealth secret. Like a
legal maneuver, a political loophole, or basically a scheme to actively and completely defeat the forces of market competition.
Okay, and to really understand the brutal reality of what happens when a business loses its wealth secret, I think we have to look at one of the most chaotic retail disasters in modern history.
This is a great example.
Let's rewind the clock to January 2009.
Okay.
The Fortune 500 electronics giant Circuit City is staggering into bankruptcy. And a liquidation firm has bought the inventory for a massive nationwide fire sale.
A fire sale for a company that had been valued at over $44 billion just a few years prior. The contrast is staggering.
$44 billion. And the details from the ground were absolute madness. I mean, shoppers were lined up outside a New York store in the freezing cold, telling reporters they came prepared to throw elbows to get a massive deal.
Oh, wow.
But when the doors opened, the deals are practically insulting. It was like 10% off iPods.
10%.
Yeah, people were furious.
Wow.
A prominent tech blogger actually called it a total scam.
Oh, I bet.
But as the weeks dragged on, the liquidation company grew desperate. So the discounts got steeper, and the stores descended into actual anarchy.
Yeah, the social contract inside those buildings completely dissolved.
Totally dissolved. Stores were taped off with police tape. Employees simply abandoned their posts or just turned against the company outright.
It was survival mode.
Yeah. At one location, a manager reported that staff walked out with nearly $400,000 worth of inventory in a matter of days.
400,000, just employees taking it.
Just walking out the door. At another store, a bearded man hijacked the public address system to scream, "Buy American," on a continuous loop.
That is absurd.
Just wild, bizarre chaos. And amidst all this, there's this profound human tragedy.
Right.
A reporter tracked down a laid-off Circuit City worker who had instantly lost his health insurance and was living in a homeless shelter.
Oh, man.
The man was a Rutgers University graduate, highly educated, just utterly humiliated by the collapse.
Gosh.
And by the bitter end, they were literally selling whole shopping carts full of random office furniture and half-empty cans of cleaning spray for a single dollar.
To understand how a $44 billion titan ends up selling cleaning supplies for pocket change, we have to examine how they achieved greatness in the first place.
Right.
Because for a long time, the business world considered them absolutely elite.
Yeah, they started out in Richmond, Virginia, as a little storefront called Ward's, which was founded by Sam Wurtzel. And the text refers to him as the Napoleon of retail.
The Napoleon of retail. And Wurtzel stumbled into his first taste of monopoly almost by accident. Yeah, he was getting a shave in a local barber shop and overheard a conversation about the first ever television broadcast station opening in the South. Right there in Richmond.
Oh, wow. So before that moment, there was no TV signal, meaning no one owned a television.
Exactly. So he recognized a guaranteed massive spike in demand where he could be the sole supplier.
Okay, but a temporary geographical advantage isn't a permanent wealth secret. Like, as soon as the station opened, other TV shops must have materialized.
Oh, they did. So Ward's resorted to some highly aggressive, shady tactics just to survive the competition.
Like what?
They used secret letter codes on price tags so salespeople could assess a customer, figure out how much money they had, and charge them the absolute maximum they could get away with.
Wow.
It was heavily reliant on bait and switch.
That kind of constant grueling hustle, that just sounds exhausting.
It is. And Wurtzel, true to his Napoleon moniker, he overextended his empire by buying up smaller chains across the Midwest. He actually nearly bankrupted the company. It wasn't until his son, Alan Wurtzel, took over as CEO in the 1970s that Circuit City discovered the mechanisms to temporarily defeat competition.
Okay, I want to dig into those mechanisms because this is where the real money is made.
Yeah.
What exactly did Alan Wurtzel do?
He implemented two crucial strategies. First, Circuit City joined an industry group called the National Appliance and Television Merchandisers.
Okay.
This organization operated effectively as a cartel.
A cartel?
Yeah. The members formed a tacit agreement not to expand into each other's geographical territories. They essentially carved up the map of the United States with a gentleman's agreement to avoid competing.
Wow, okay.
And second, and much more significantly, during the 1980s, the U.S. government effectively stopped enforcing the Robinson-Patman Act, which was a 1936 antitrust law.
Wait, let's break down the mechanics of that antitrust law.
Sure.
Because my understanding is that the Robinson-Patman Act was originally designed to prevent giant retailers from bullying their suppliers.
Yeah.
So if a store gets too big, they can go to a supplier, like Sony, let's say, and say, hey, we represent 30% of your sales.
Yeah.
You are going to sell us your televisions 20% cheaper than you sell them to the local mom and pop shop down the street, or we will just drop your brand entirely.
Yep.
And Sony has no choice but to comply.
That is the exact mechanism. So once the government stopped policing that behavior, Circuit City weaponized its massive scale.
Oh, was he?
They focused on utterly dominating specific local markets. Because they were the biggest buyer in town, they coerced suppliers into selling to them at a steep discount.
So that artificial price advantage allowed them to offer retail prices to consumers that smaller shops simply couldn't match.
Yeah.
Not without taking a loss anyway.
Exactly. The mom and pop shops went out of business. Circuit City absorbed their customers, grew even larger, and used that new size to demand even deeper discounts from suppliers.
Gosh.
It was a self-reinforcing cycle of market dominance.
And that cycle translates to unbelievable wealth.
Yeah.
I mean, between 1982 and 1997, Circuit City's stock beat the broader market by a factor of 18.5.
Wow.
To put that in perspective for the listener, if you put $1,000 into the general stock market, you get a nice little return.
Yeah.
You put that same $1,000 into Circuit City, you were basically buying a house.
Yeah. Jim Collins even featured them in his famous business book, Good to Great.
Oh, right.
Out of more than 1,400 Fortune 500 companies analyzed, Circuit City was one of only 11 that met his elite criteria.
11 out of 1,400.
Yeah. Yet greatness in business is rarely permanent if it relies on a strategy that a rival can simply reverse engineer.
Right. Which brings me to a brilliant visual from the source material.
Oh, the muffler shops.
Yes, the muffler shops. It describes a specific neighborhood near Citi Field in New York. And if you drive through there, you'll find a dense cluster of about 50 completely identical auto parts and muffler shops. Places with names like New Pamir Muffler and Ming Repair Shop, just packed shoulder to shoulder, fighting over the exact same finite pool of customers.
Mm-hmm.
So if Circuit City was supposedly this elite, unassailable company, why did they end up exactly like those 50 identical muffler shops just bleeding each other dry?
Because the lure of massive profit margins always summons competition. Always.
Always.
Best Buy looked at Circuit City's balance sheet, saw the money they were making, and just copied the big box model.
Just lifted it?
Lifted it.
Yeah.
Furthermore, they improved upon it. Best Buy recognized that the changing technological landscape, the shift toward laptops, software, and eventually smartphones, that required highly flexible store layouts.
Oh, right.
They moved away from rigid showrooms. And crucially, they also realized Circuit City was bleeding cash by paying massive commissions to its sales force.
So Best Buy just hired staff at a standard hourly wage?
Exactly. Drastically undercutting Circuit City's operating costs.
So the competition finally arrived and started driving that profit margin down toward zero, exactly like the economic theory predicts.
Yeah.
But a massive, multi-billion-dollar company should be able to pivot, shouldn't they? Like, why couldn't Circuit City just rip out their old floor plans and switch to an hourly wage model?
Well, they attempted to, but they were paralyzed by a fatal flaw hidden in their accounting structure.
Oh.
To fuel their rapid expansion back in the 1980s, Circuit City had utilized a tactic called off-balance sheet financing.
Okay.
So they signed massive 20-year leases on their store locations instead of buying them. And because an accounting technicality at the time, future lease obligations didn't show up as debt on the balance sheet.
Wait, really? So it made the company look incredibly profitable and completely debt-free to investors on paper?
Yes. But the reality is that a 20-year lease physically traps you, demographics shift, the local mall dies.
Right. Best Buy opens a newer, brighter store across the highway in a better neighborhood. And Circuit City is literally chained to a sinking ship because they are legally obligated to pay rent on a dead location for 2 decades.
They were completely immobilized. When they realized they desperately needed to relocate stores to fight Best Buy, they couldn't afford to break the leases.
Wow.
One internal rescue plan estimated it would cost $2.1 billion just to relocate and remodel their real estate portfolio.
$2.1 billion.
Yeah, the cash simply wasn't there.
And the desperation moves from management at that point were wild.
Oh, yeah.
The new CEO, Philip Schoonover, decided the only way to save money was to fire his most experienced staff. He terminated every single store employee making over $18 an hour.
Every single one.
Everyone. If you made more than $36,000 a year, you were fired strictly because you were deemed too expensive.
And that decision instantly annihilated the one competitive advantage they had left, which was their reputation for knowledgeable customer service.
Right, because all the experienced people are gone.
Exactly.
And the ultimate irony of that bloodbath. When Schoonover was eventually ousted as the company careened toward bankruptcy, he walked away with a $1.8 million severance package.
Unbelievable.
But as the text notes, the writing was permanently on the wall. Without their temporary wealth, secret of supplier bullying, the inexorable power of competition dragged their profits down to zero.
It is the inevitable fate of almost all businesses. Without a permanent moat, the market eventually consumes you.
Okay, but I can hear a skeptical listener thinking, sure, a physical retail chain, heavily reliant on foot traffic and chained to 20-year leases, can be copied and destroyed.
Sure.
But what if your business has no physical storefronts, no inventory, and no leases?
Right.
Or what if your entire operation relies on raw, unadulterated intellectual horsepower? What if you hire literal, documented geniuses?
That brings us to one of the most spectacular high-stakes financial experiments in history. Long-term capital management, or LTCM.
This was arguably the largest startup in human history.
Yeah.
They launched with $1.25 billion in capital, which is insane for a startup.
Absolutely insane.
Right.
It was founded by John Merriweather, a legendary trader from Salomon Brothers.
Okay.
And he assembled a brain trust that was frankly, intimidating to Wall Street. He hired multiple MIT PhDs, a former Harvard Business School professor, and two brilliant financial academics, Myron Scholes and Robert Merton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they would actually go on to win the Nobel Prize in economics shortly after joining the fund.
Okay, having Nobel laureates steering your trading desk is quite the flex.
Oh, absolutely.
So what was their grand strategy?
The core of their strategy was based on the belief that financial markets over a long enough timeline become perfectly efficient. So they engaged in arbitrage.
Arbitrage.
Yeah. In simple terms, they would find two virtually identical financial instruments that were inexplicably trading at slightly different prices, and they would place massive bets that those prices would eventually converge.
The text gives a great example of this, but I want to make sure the mechanics make sense.
Sure.
So they looked at 30-year U.S. Treasury bonds. They noticed that a bond issued a few months ago would have a tiny interest rate difference compared to a brand new 30-year bond issued today.
Yes.
We are talking about a microscopic difference, maybe 0.1%.
Microscopic.
But why would two identical government bonds have different prices in the first place?
It comes down to something called a liquidity premium. Think of it like buying a car. A brand new 30-year bond is the shiny new model.
Okay.
Everyone is trading it actively, so it's highly liquid. An older bond that only has, say, 29.5 years left is like a car that's been driven off the lot.
Ah, I see.
It still works perfectly, it yields the exact same payout, but it's mostly sitting in pension funds and isn't traded as often. So investors are willing to pay a tiny premium for the new bond simply because they know they can sell it instantly if they need cash.
Oh, okay. And the geniuses at LTCM calculated that over time, the market would correct this irrational premium and the prices of the two bonds would perfectly match.
Exactly.
But to make a 0.1% margin worthwhile, you'd need massive volume.
Oh, massive.
To me, that strategy sounds like picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. It's mathematically guaranteed money right up until the exact moment you trip and get flattened.
That is an incredibly accurate analogy. A 0.1% difference only yields about $16 in profit for every $1,000 invested.
Oh my gosh, $16.
Yeah. To turn $16 into billions, LTCM relied on a temporary wealth secret, which was extreme leverage.
Extreme leverage.
They were executing trades worth billions of dollars at a time, borrowing staggering sums of money from banks at virtually zero cost to amplify those tiny margins.
Wow. And their second wealth secret was almost paranoid levels of secrecy.
Oh, yeah. They understood that if the Wall Street investment banks executing their trades figured out the underlying math, those banks would simply copy the strategy.
Of course, because competition drives it to zero.
Right. To prevent this, LTCM deliberately fractured their trades. They would send their junk bond trades exclusively to Goldman Sachs, rate their mortgage trades through Lehman Brothers, and handle government bonds with JP Morgan. Wow.
They kept everyone utterly in the dark, including their own trading floor. The text mentions a junior trader who lived in constant terror of being fired if the financial press ever found out about a single one of his trades.
Oh, yeah. Just paralyzed by fear.
The senior partners wouldn't even make polite conversation with the trading staff in the hallways. It was a total information blackout.
Yeah.
But here's where I struggle with this whole story.
Okay.
If they had Nobel laureates, and they were essentially printing money with theoretically zero risk, I mean, delivering 43% and 41% returns to their investors in the first couple of years, why couldn't they just sustain that loop forever?
Because the investment banks executing those piecemeal trades weren't foolish. They observed the massive, unprecedented volume of capital LTCM was moving, connected the scattered dots, reverse-engineered the math, and realized exactly what the geniuses were doing.
The steamroller arrived.
It did. And within a few short years, virtually every major investment bank on Wall Street had set up its own proprietary arbitrage desk.
Wow. And as billions of copycat dollars piled into the exact same bond trades, those microscopic price disparities vanished instantly.
Just poof, gone.
LTCM found its core strategy entirely neutralized.
Right. So to maintain those astronomical returns and justify their fees, the geniuses were forced to abandon their safe government bonds and wade into highly esoteric, significantly less predictable market.
Like commercial mortgage-backed securities.
Exactly.
The source material notes they bet so heavily on those specific derivatives that they literally doubled the size of the entire market.
Doubled it.
They were no longer analyzing the market. Their bets were so monstrously large that they were artificially driving the market.
That is an incredibly precarious position. By 1998, LTCM had amassed a theoretical exposure of $2 trillion.
$2 trillion.
$2 trillion. Then, the unpredictable black swan event happened. Russia unexpectedly defaulted on its sovereign debt. Global financial markets panicked and behaved completely irrationally, defying all of LTCM's mathematical models. Because they were so aggressively leveraged, the entire house of cards disintegrated.
Wow.
In August 1998 alone, they lost 45% of their total value. On one single catastrophic day, they bled nearly $500 million.
So the smartest guys in the room lost the game.
They really did.
But the fallout of that loss was so massive that the U.S. Federal Reserve actually had to intervene and orchestrate a massive bailout. So essentially, these geniuses built a financial bomb so devastatingly large that when it detonated, the government had to step in just to keep the blast from vaporizing the checking accounts of everyday Americans.
Right. And the crucial detail of that bailout is identifying who was actually saved.
Okay.
The Federal Reserve didn't step in to rescue the Nobel laureates or the founders. Their personal fortunes were largely obliterated in the collapse. The bailout was orchestrated to save the Wall Street investment banks who had blindly lent LTCM all that leverage.
Oh, I see.
If LTCM had defaulted, the shockwave could have taken down the entire global banking system. The ultimate lesson here is that competition remains undefeated.
Okay, so if physical storefronts fail, and the most complex mathematical moats on Wall Street get reverse engineered and destroyed by copycats,
Yeah.
is a permanent wealth secret even mathematically possible? Like, where is the proof that someone can actually beat the system forever?
Well, to find an environment where the market couldn't correct itself, where the rules of competition were permanently broken, we have to look for a time when competition itself was literally illegal for 99% of the population.
Okay.
The text takes us on a fascinating historical detour to ancient Rome.
Rome, the ultimate benchmark for staggering, unassailable wealth.
Yes.
Economists analyzing the period estimate that by around 1 AD, the top 10 richest Romans were worth the modern equivalent of $2.2 billion each.
$2.2 billion.
And unlike Circuit City or LTCM, they held onto it.
Right. Their ultimate wealth secret was brutally physically simple. A complete lack of ability for the masses to compete against them.
Wow.
You don't have to worry about an ambitious competitor opening a better shop across the street or reverse engineering your math when the vast majority of the population is either legally enslaved or entirely illiterate.
Right. The playing field wasn't just uneven, it was walled off by the military might of the empire.
Exactly.
And the decadence that stems from that kind of completely unchallenged monopolistic wealth is absolutely stunning. I mean, the anecdotes provided in the text are almost unbelievable.
Oh, they're wild.
You have the Emperor Domitian hosting a dinner party specifically designed to inflict psychological warfare on his guests.
Yeah.
He paints the entire banquet room black. He has naked boys painted black like phantoms dancing around the room.
Terrifying.
And next to every single guest's plate, he places a grave tablet with their name carved into it.
It's the behavior of a man who knows there are absolutely no consequences for his actions. None.
None. Or Caligula. We've all heard the legends of his madness.
Sure.
But the historian Suetonius recorded that Caligula literally had massive piles of gold coins poured out across an open floor just so he could walk barefoot on them and physically wallow with his whole body in the gold.
Wallow in it.
It's like a terrifying real-life Scrooge McDuck.
It really is. Then there is Tiberius, isolated on his private island of Capri.
The little fishes.
Yep.
Suetonius records that Tiberius had young men trained to swim between his legs and nibble at him while he bathed in his private pools. Just gross.
Gross, yeah.
But what does any of this mean for us today? I mean, we obviously aren't living in ancient Rome, and we don't have literal legal slavery operating in the modern corporate world.
Thankfully.
Why should the modern learner care about Caligula rolling in gold?
Because if we strip away the togas and the specific historical horrors, the fundamental economic mechanism of the billionaire class remains largely unchanged. Unchanged. True, unassailable generational wealth doesn't come from being 10% better at your job or working slightly harder, or even having a higher IQ in a competitive free market.
Right.
It comes from finding, exploiting, and aggressively defending a structural environment where absolutely no one else is allowed to compete with you.
Wow. Let's bring this all together. The core takeaway from Sam Wilkin's research isn't a motivational speech about grinding harder.
Definitely not.
It's a harsh mathematical reality check. If you don't possess a legally protected brand, a massive scale advantage that allows you to bully suppliers, a political loophole, or an outright monopoly,
Yeah.
the free market is going to eat your margins alive.
The market is a machine designed to drive profits to zero.
Right.
And that leaves us with a highly provocative thought, something that isn't explicitly stated in the text, but is the undeniable shadow hanging over this entire discussion.
Good.
In our modern culture, we are heavily conditioned to revere the self-made billionaire. We put them on the covers of magazines, we eagerly buy their biographies, and we hold them up as the ultimate shining champions of free market capitalism.
But if core economic theory dictates that a perfectly free competitive market drives profits down to zero,
Yes.
then our most celebrated billionaires aren't the champions of free market capitalism at all.
No, they aren't. They are simply the people who are the absolute best at breaking it.
Breaking it. Wow. They aren't winning the game of capitalism. They are the ones who figured out how to rig the rules so they never have to play.
Exactly.
So the next time you picture that pristine, perfectly leveled playing field of the free market, don't look at the players running around sweating and grinding. Look for the people standing perfectly still, smiling, right next to the sinkhole.
Well said.
That's all the time we have for today. Keep questioning the rules of the game, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.